He is Pedro.
Huh?
No, not him. Now yes, he is Pedro Sánchez, the president of Spain, a self-declared socialist, a by-the-book progressive, and a lover of taxes, subsidies, and state power. His recipe is well known. More taxes, more civil servants, more subsidies, more state control over your life. Sound familiar? Because it's not just Pedro, it's a way of thinking. An idea that began by promising equality and ended up creating scarcity. Today, I'm going to tell you what the hell communism is and why, no matter how hard they tried, it always fails. Get ready. Because what you're about to hear isn't politically correct, but it's the damn reality. Communism is a political, economic, and social ideology that seeks a classless society and the abolition of private ownership of the means of production. In its purest form, it proposes that all goods and resources be shared and that each person receive according to their needs and contribute according to their abilities. Marx summed it up this way: from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. Yes, it's similar to socialism, but with one small difference. Classical communism is more radical and revolutionary. It wants to eliminate capitalism entirely and replace it with an economy totally controlled collectively. And who do you think pays for all this? Well, the people, damn! But that's not all. Communism doesn't just want to change the economy, but also how you think and what you believe. Marx said that religion was the opium of the people. So many communist regimes banned religion, destroyed churches, and persecuted religious leaders. And he also said that the state would be temporary until it was no longer needed. But that never happened. A dictatorship of the proletariat was instituted, which in reality was a one-party dictatorship with no free elections nor separation of powers. Real fact, in Cuba there are elections, but only one party exists, the Communist Party. In North Korea there are also elections with a single candidate. In communism, private property doesn't exist. Everything that produces wealth, factories, land, banks, belongs to the people, administered by the state. Social classes don't exist either, because everyone is equal and has access to the same resources. And when total authority is reached, the state disappears. Who needs a government if everything works naturally, all thanks to collective consciousness? But they do have a planned economy. The state decides what is produced, how much, how, and for whom. There's no supply and demand, no competition. Sound utopian? Of course, and it is. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels were the parents of the creature. In 1848, they wrote the famous Communist Manifesto. According to them, all of human history is a class struggle. The rich oppress the poor, and the only way to end it is for the workers to seize power, eliminate private property, and share everything. It sounds nice, like a fairy tale. But here comes the nasty part. What happened when they tried to apply it? So far, no country has managed to implement pure communism. What we've seen are authoritarian communist regimes. The first attempt was in Russia around 1917. Lenin and the Bolsheviks seized power. They promised freedom and bread. The result was civil war, repression, and the birth of a dictatorship. Then came Stalin. Do you know how he imposed communism? With concentration camps, terror, and millions of deaths from forced famines. In China, Mao did the same. The Great Leap Forward caused the largest famine in history. Between 30 and 45 million deaths. Cuba, North Korea, Cambodia, they all repeated the same script. Revolution, dictatorship, collapse. And they all started the same way, promising equality and justice, and ended with repression, hunger, and a fat, happy political class. What happened in these cases? The state controls everything. The economy, education, the media, even what you can say. This creates an immense bureaucracy and lots of corruption. Competition is eliminated, so there are no private companies and everything belongs to the state. Since no one competes, there's no innovation or efficiency. Result: scarce products, poor quality, and endless lines. There are no individual incentives. You work the same whether you try hard or do nothing. Thus, productivity plummets. With no pluralism, the dissident becomes an enemy of the people. Prisons, persecution, censorship, and constant fear. To top it off, all this produces severe economic crises, famines, as in China or North Korea, technological stagnation, and brain drain. Many say that wasn't real communism. Well, which one was then? No country has managed to apply communism without descending into ruin, repression, or dictatorship. In China, Mao Zedong, leader of the Chinese Communist Party, took power and declared the founding of the People's Republic of China. The Chinese people have risen up. He began eliminating everyone who didn't think like the party. Mao launched campaigns of re-education, class struggle, and rectification, which in practice meant public executions of class enemies, land confiscations, and the elimination of intellectuals, business owners, and rich peasants, kulaks. It's estimated that between 1 and 2 million people were executed in the first few years alone. Agriculture was destroyed, production figures were falsified, the state demanded harvests that didn't exist, and millions died because the food they themselves had grown was taken away. Between 30 and 45 million people starved to death. It was the largest famine in human history. When Mao felt his influence waning, he launched a new campaign, the Cultural Revolution, which was really a brutal purge disguised as a social revolution. China was literally paralyzed. Not even the schools functioned. Today, China is a technocratic one-party dictatorship with a market economy and digital repression. And although no one today declares themselves a pure communist, there are still countries that implement policies or certain collective principles. One of these is Spain, with Pedro Sánchez as president. In Sanchez's world, money isn't generated, it's redistributed even when it doesn't exist. He and his government, supported by Unidas Podemos and Sumar, have pushed the wealth tax, a euphemism for more pressure on fortunes, hikes in income tax for upper middle income earners, an increase in social security contributions for companies, and new green taxes that you pay at the supermarket, not on a yacht. Result: Spain has become a less attractive country for investment. Instead of encouraging private initiative, the Sanchez government has opted to multiply the size of the state. Massive hiring in the public sector, generalized subsidies, European funds used the state as protective daddy, caring for you with money that doesn't exist yet. The government's solution to the housing problem was to control rent prices, as if pressing a button in Moncloa made apartments appear. Result: less supply, more fear of renting, and prices that keep rising. No, Pedro Sanchez doesn't declare himself a communist, but he applies many policies that if you'd heard them 30 years ago, you'd have said, this is hardcore socialism. More state, less freedom, more taxes, less merit. And as in every collectivist model, what starts with promises of justice ends in more poverty. Did you know there is a book that reveals communism's darkest secrets? That's right. The Black Book of Communism, published in 1997 by European scholars, seeks to document with data and historical sources the crimes committed in the name of communism by various totalitarian regimes of the 20th century, and to compare its human impact with that of Nazism. Its central idea is provocative. If Nazism deserves its Nuremberg, why has communism so often been justified or ignored? This book estimates that communist regimes caused more than 100 million deaths in the 20th century through mass executions, concentration camps, famines caused by economic policies, deportations, and political and cultural repression. Most importantly, it's based on real sources. Soviet and Stasi archives, testimonies of victims and dissidents, declassified official records, and previous academic studies. Its significance lies in dismantling the romantic idea that communism only failed because of bad people. It shows that the system's logic, authoritarian, collectivist, totalitarian, inevitably leads to repression. Violence isn't an accident of communism, it's its essence. Because communism starts from a very nice idea, but one that doesn't work. There are no incentives if you work the same as someone who does nothing. Why bother? Everything belongs to the state, which means it belongs to no one. So it rots, breaks, and melts down. Power doesn't disappear. It concentrates, and before you know it, you're applauding in the square, afraid to say what you really think. Communism is an idea born seeking justice and equality, but in practice it has produced authoritarian regimes, economic stagnation, and repression. It sounds good in theory, but its application has, in most cases, been disastrous. Communism promises paradise on earth, but every time it's been tried, it turned into a nightmare run by bureaucrats. Which communist government do you think was the worst so far? Leave your answer in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you next time.